Now, China is one of the strongest economies in the world. I mean, this China, or this country, China, it is the second strongest economy in terms of rankings, which is something that must just show you that GDP wise, it is strong in terms of GDP, which is why even investors really like investing into China, including myself. I mean, this is for these reasons, or it's one of these reasons where you find myself talking about some of the Chinese stocks which I buy or own, because I do realize that it is one of the strongest economies and they are doing well. I mean, most of the countries worldwide right now, they are struggling with inflation or the cost of living. But when you look at a country like China, inflation is still very low, which is something that must just show you that not only is China the second strongest country in terms of, or looking in the GDP, but it is a country that is, regardless of what's happening in the other countries, it is doing quite well. I mean, there are so many people, even on YouTube, who were predicting the downfall of China, and there are still people who are continuing to predict the downfall of China. But let me tell you something, ladies and gents, China continues to do well, regardless of maybe articles that have been saying negative things about China. Because as seen on the screen, you'll notice that China, just yesterday, we read that their GDP grew by 3.9%, beating analyst expectations, or beating what most people expected out of China, which is something that must just show you that it is a country that is doing well in terms of GDP or in terms of their economy, because so many countries, including the US, are struggling with inflation. But if you look at countries like China, their inflation is still very low, which is why I personally believe that it is a good bet to invest or consider taking some of your money into the Chinese economy, because it is the economy that is doing very well regardless of the current worldly economic condition, if I can put it like that. I mean, some of the Chinese stocks which I like, which I think they are really underrated, include NIO and Baba. I mean, those two companies, in my opinion, I personally believe that they will do very well in the future, which is why now is the good opportunity, or a perfect opportunity, for you to go in and probably load the boat on some of the Chinese stocks, because trust me, this is a country which will see its economy growing, regardless of what maybe some analysts might say about China. China, it's a strong country. Otherwise, before we forget the households, you already know that this video is just an entertainment video and not a professional financial advice video. I would really appreciate if you can just hit the like button if you're enjoying the content that I'm giving you about the latest developments about China. And once you hit that like button, if you're new, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell, so that at least you get notified by YouTube every time I drop a new content. So as I was saying, China, I personally believe that they are doing very well economy wise. I mean, one of my favorite industry in China is the EV market, or one of the industries which I personally like investing in China, or which I'm heavily invested in, is the EV industry, which obviously it is seeing some massive growth. I mean, regardless of the economic conditions, we are seeing EV companies, which my favorite company, which is NIO, continues to do very well in terms of sales. I mean, you will notice that even their projections that companies or EV companies are making in the future continues to rise, meaning that ladies and gents, must just show you that China continues to do very well, regardless of what we might see happening around other economies, which is something that obviously must make you to not really put aside China and not invest in China. Because EV space, if you have to check even in the last quarters or each and every month, you will notice that the trend has been upside in terms of NEF sales. If you have to go and look the NEF sales that China has been reporting, you'll notice that on average they are seeing a surge in sales, which is something that must just show you that China continues to do very well in terms of course, the sales they are seeing in new energy vehicles, in terms of the sector, especially the EV sector, which is one of the sectors that I really like. I mean, this is one of the things that obviously it is contributing, or it's making China to see, of course, it's the good growth that they reported on their GDP. Because when other countries are struggling, when other countries are not doing or performing that well, China continues to do very well, which is something that, like I said, must make you, or ought to make you, to consider investing or loading the boat onto some of the Chinese stocks, because it looks like the predictions that so many people, including here on YouTube, were telling you about China collapsing, China's collapse, it is not happening, which is why we are seeing obviously China doing well in terms of also the GDP, which they reported yesterday. Otherwise, with all that, guys, I just thought I should just give you this quick update and remind you once again that China, it is that country that will really do well in terms of the GDP. And in my opinion, I personally believe that whether people like it or not, it is going to surpass obviously the US and obviously become the strongest economy in the world. I think so, because if you are to look at some of the industries or sectors, China is leading the world in terms of, like, for instance, this EV, or in the EV industry, China is leading the entire world in terms of sales that is generating each and every month. That, my friend, must just show you, or must just mean something to you, to say that China, it is that country which is doing really well, and it is already leading in some of the industries, which is something that must just show you that, yeah, it might be a matter of time for China, or we can take it aside to say that China can be one day that country that becomes the strongest economy in the world. Otherwise, with all that, guys, I make tons and tons of stock market investing videos, and if you think that this video was amazing, don't forget to hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. Otherwise, that's all from me, and I wish you nothing but the best in your stock market investing journey, and God bless you all.